Some stories you find online are more than just campfire tales. They really tap into our deepest fears. So today, we're going to deconstruct a viral Indian horror story called Manali 28 Cam. We're going to break down exactly how it uses suspense, psychology, and even local folklore to build a digital nightmare that feels terrifyingly real. So, this is the very first line of the story, told from the perspective of a young man named Sahil. And wow, what a hook, right? It immediately takes something innocent, a lullaby, and twists it into a symbol of pure terror. This one sentence just perfectly sets the stage for everything about to happen. The best horror stories often start somewhere familiar, somewhere we feel safe. And here, it's a road trip with friends. But as we're about to see, this trip is carrying some heavy emotional weight right from the get-go. See, this wasn't just some fun getaway. The whole reason for the trip to Manali was to help their friend, Samai. He was grieving the recent death of his younger brother. And right away, that raises the emotional stakes and establishes Samai as psychologically vulnerable, which, believe me, becomes a key element as the horror starts to unfold. So the friends get there, and for a little while, everything seems fine, totally normal. But as they get ready for a scenic drive, a seemingly casual piece of advice ends up being the story's first major omen. And of course, they just laugh it off. They figure it's just some local superstition they tell all the tourists. They have absolutely no clue that this little warning is the first thread in a web they're about to drive straight into. So the receptionist tells them where the name comes from, and it is chilling. Rotang literally translates to Valley of Death. He tells them this local legend. For centuries, anyone caught on the pass after dark was found dead. The deaths were always blamed on accidents, but the locals knew a phantom was responsible. That is just a brilliant move from a storytelling perspective, grounding the fiction in some real-world folklore. While the friends ignore the warning, they stay out late, and as they start driving back in the pitch dark, the very laws of time and space, they just begin to fall apart. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better horror setup. It's late at night, there's this dense fog, and they're on a completely empty mountain road. And then they see it, a simple stone marker, Manali, 28 kilometers. But it's what they see on that stone that really kicks off the nightmare. And then, maybe 20 minutes later, they see it again, the exact same one. Now, at first they just figure they're lost, right? But as they start talking to each other, they realize something far more sinister is going on. Okay, so this is a classic horror move, but it's done so well here. Sahal, our narrator, asks his friends if they saw the man in the dhoti on the milestone, but Chirag's like, no, I saw a little girl holding a toy. And Arun, the driver, says he didn't see a person at all. He saw a black horse. They all saw the same stone at the exact same time, but they all witnessed three completely different things. You can just feel the fear and paranoia starting to creep in. But what about the fourth friend, Samai, the one who's grieving? He doesn't say what he saw. He just keeps repeating this strange, unsettling phrase. And this is our first clue that whatever is on this pass has found its weak link. It's latching onto him through his grief. So they pass the milestone a third time. And now, it's empty. The unease just explodes into full-blown panic. And this is the moment. This is where the horror stops being passive and becomes a very real, very active threat. Arun, who's driving, he just whispers this in a terrified voice, warning them not to look. But of course, they can't resist. And what they see, it just defies all logic. Okay, so get this. They're driving at 40 kilometers per hour. That's about 25 miles per hour, so not exactly crawling along. Remember that speed. It's so important for what happens next, for what makes this moment so impossible and so terrifying. Because right outside the window, there's a boy, maybe 15 years old. His face and his clothes are covered in mud, and he looks injured. And he's not running. He's just walking, calmly, effortlessly, keeping pace with their moving car. The sheer impossibility of it is what makes it so horrifying. Now, while everyone else is, freaking out, recoiling in terror, Samay does the exact opposite. He opens his window and just stares, totally entranced. When the boy waves at him, Samay waves back. The entity now has a direct line right into his vulnerable mind. Somehow, they finally break out of this loop. They speed away and they make it back to the hotel. They think they're safe. But the real horror, it has only just begun. Because they didn't leave the phantom on the mountain. Oh no, they brought it back with them. So they get back to the hotel around 2 a.m., just completely terrified but relieved. But then, at 3:30 in the morning, Sohail is jolted awake by this faint, kind of melodic sound, a child's lullaby being sung from inside their dark room. He looks up, and there's Samai, standing in front of the mirror. But his reflection? It's monstrous. His eyes are blood red, there are these dark marks on his neck like he's been strangled, and he's got this small, eerie smile on his face as he just sings that lullaby to himself. The threat isn't outside anymore. It's right there, in the room, inside their friend. So as they're all trying to quietly back away, Samai turns around. But when he speaks, it's not his voice. It's the high-pitched, innocent voice of a child. It asks them this terrifying question, smiles, and then Samai just collapses, unconscious, on the floor. So the next morning, they know this is way beyond anything they can handle. Remembering the receptionist's warning, they find a local pundit, a priest, to try and save their friend. The Pandit takes one look and knows exactly what's happening. He tells them a spirit used the memory of Samai's late brother to get access to him. After they perform a ritual, Samai violently vomits this thick black substance, and just like that, the entity is finally expelled. And that, right there, brings us full circle, all the way back to that opening line. Samai makes a full recovery, and he doesn't remember a thing about what happened. But for Sohail, our narrator, that experience left a permanent scar. He says he's forever haunted by the memory of his friend's face in the mirror, and the sound of that lullaby in the dark. And that's really the final punch of this whole story, isn't it? The spirit might be gone, but the trauma becomes its own kind of ghost. It really leaves you wondering, when the nightmare is finally over, what pieces of it do you end up carrying with you forever?